So I'm Stephen, mostly known as Stebalian. I'll be talking about IPLD. It should hopefully be fairly short. IPLD is the interplanetary linked data system. That's sort of the underlying system that we use for storing data and referencing data in IPFS. Why IPLD? Basically gives us a decentralized permanent memory for a decentralized permanent web. Like IPFS, again, like we need a permanent file system, but like underneath every file system, there is some form of data structure system. In your computer, it's inodes. In IPFS, we have IPLD. So originally, we had something called the Merkeldag. The Merkeldag had basically data and links. Every node looked kind of like this, where you could have like one node that's protocol labs. It has a data section. It just has raw data. Here, I form it in JSON to be nice to you. In IPFS, we use protobuf, so this will just look like garbage. And then so you can have another node, Stephen, that's me, with the data section, and then a link pointing back to the company I work for and showing the relationship between me and the company. This format was a bit annoying to work with, so we made IPLD. IPLD is structured, so instead of just having this arbitrary data section, the entire thing is structured, and you can just like, even if you don't know what you're looking for, you can like understand the structure. It's self-describing, so you don't have external schemas. Here, like this schema is actually built in IPFS. It's not. It's just binary. But in IPLD, it's actually fully just like schema. So this is what IPLD would look like. I'll go back to that in a second. It's versioned. So in IPLD, we have these things called CIDs or content IDs. Basically, whenever you have a pointer that points to some piece of IPLD data, the pointer says what version of IPLD it is and the type of data it's pointing to, or like how to interpret the data. So I could say, oh, you're pointing to a get object. I'll get to that in a second. But like, and then that'll tell you, okay, like this is how you decode the object, and this is the version of IPLD we're using. So it means like if we have to change anything, we can always just up the version number and like add features to IPLD in the future. This was hard to do with to deal with this with our existing Merkeldag. We actually had to make something we call CADV0, which we hope to never have to do again, where basically we say like, well, if you see something that looks exactly like this, it's a CADV0, therefore treat it this way. Otherwise, if it has a version, you can treat it the normal way. We don't want to have to do that again because it's a lot of special casing. Next, the part about Git, it's inclusive. So IPLD is really cool because we can point to anything, like any Merkle linked data, and basically say, look, like this is now part of IPLD. So I like to think of it as the Borg, where we basically say, well, Git, like it's a Merkle linked data structure. It's basically it's a list of commits that all point to the previous commit, and then each commit points to a tree of objects, and yeah, but like that means like from IPLD itself, you can actually like explore a Git commit tree and like reference any object in a Git commit tree, and just treat it as if it's like any other IPLD object. We can do the same thing with Ethereum. We also have our own custom formats that uses CBOR. Finally, it has path traversal. You can actually go I'll just explain it first. Basically, it allows you to name anything in IPLD. That's the main point. In the Merkeldag, you can kind of name things, but the real way you name things, like you said, like some node and then link number 32, and then some like link number 41 or whatever, and you sort of like walk through the link numbers, and that's not very friendly. But actually, I'll just show you the example. It's easier to understand. So this is, again, this example here, but rewritten in IPLD, where it's just two objects, the company and then me, and then my object has a pointer back to the company. But the links actually allow you to say something like IPLD resolve / IPLD my content ID / company / name, which just walks through my object to / company, and then walks through the company object through / name, and it resolves to protocol labs. It's just very useful for exploring data. For the team that's been working on this, the working group is Juan, myself, Davidad, who's not here currently, and Volker. The midwives, I call them midwives. This is because like they're the people that help sort of birth IPLD. Again, David, Juan, Nicola, myself, Jeremy, and then we have a bunch of contributors. It's a bit hard to list them because IPLD is very sort of spread out and has been built over many discussions, but those are some of them. Status. Currently, we have IPFS runs on IPLD. and we have 0 DTs on IPLD. We are working on new and improved formats. Actually, Git is probably should go back up to deployment now that the next release of IPFS, well, once the next release of IPFS or GoIPFS comes out, Git will be supported by default in GoIPFS. We're still working on making it a little more user-friendly. That can actually also be moved a bit more towards deployment because JS or JavaScript has been working a lot this quarter, thanks to Volker, on making using IPLD and JavaScript much more friendly. Go, it's still a bit iffy. And CRDTs and IPLD, again, they're still a work in progress. Research, I don't have to get into this too much, but basically we're working on introducing types to IPFS. So currently we have it's structured data, but it's not like we're losing type information. It's like when you make your program, you may have type information in your program, and then when you when you store your data structures in IPLD, we kind of just sort of we keep the structure, but we throw away the actual extra type information. We're hoping to keep that. In the future, we'd add more type classes and stuff like that, and then eventually be able to ship code with IPLD. But yeah, status JavaScript. So this is basically what happened this quarter or the past few quarters. Interfaces and formats and documentations are steadily improving thanks to Volker. Go, the next Go IPFS release will again include the Get IPLD plugin, improve seaboard decoding, coding, but otherwise it's mostly stagnant due to lack of time. So that's my presentation. That was a bit over. Questions?
Hello. This might be a stupid question or idea, but I just wanted to throw it out. Have you considered using GraphQL as a query language to the IPLD data structure, to the path reversal, etc.?
So the question is, have you considered using GraphQL for querying IPLD? We have. We've looked at it. We are still considering it. One issue there is we would like to make a query language, or this person I would like to make a query language that has nice performance guarantees, where I can send a query to some arbitrary node that doesn't trust me, and it can execute the query and know that it won't take exponential time or something like that, and also know a few other properties where ideally you'd be able to partially execute the query over some subset of the data and then return a certifiable result for the query, where the person that's getting the data back and then verify that the query was executed correctly. I don't know if GraphQL actually provides these kinds of guarantees. So we've been looking to other selector languages that allow things like that. We could implement, we could still use GraphQL on top of some other system where basically I give you a GraphQL query and then you give me back everything I need to actually answer the query or to determine if you did or perform the query correctly. But it's an ongoing question. It's a very complicated question. Sorry. Any other questions?